Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, you've sent over a really fascinating mix of topics today.
Yeah, quite a range.
It really gives us a snapshot, doesn't it? We've got chip manufacturing, event tickets, trade policy stuff.
Right, even down to EV chargers and pet fashion.
Ha, exactly, the stylish puppy. So let's dig in. We'll look at potential shifts in semiconductor production, the economics behind things like Coachella tickets.
And that buy now, pay later angle.
Yes. Plus, global trade, what's happening with EV infrastructure, especially in places like Detroit. And yeah, we have to address the dog's jacket situation.
It's a great mix of, news snippets and your own observations.
And the goal is to try and, well, connect the dots, see how these different pieces might actually fit together, find the bigger picture.
It's amazing how these kinds of diverse points can sort of focus the lens on broader trends.
Yeah. From global tech down to really personal consumer choices.
And pet choices, apparently.
Okay, let's start with the tech side. Nvidia. There's buzz about them maybe potentially getting involved in U.S. chip manufacturing.
Right. And usually NVIDIA, they're the designers, the brains behind the chips, but they don't actually make them historically.
Exactly. They rely on giants like TSMC over in Taiwan for the actual fabrication.
That's their whole fabless model, isn't it? Focus on design, let foundries handle the super expensive, complex manufacturing.
But there's this big push now, politically and strategically, for more domestic semiconductor production here in the U.S.
Definitely. The strategic importance of chips is just undeniable now. Everyone wants a secure supply.
So it seems NVIDIA might be looking at partnerships, maybe with companies setting up these new U.S.-based fabs.
That seems plausible. And that's where the Cheech IPS and Science Act fits in, right? The 2022 Act.
Yeah, talk about that a bit. It's basically dangling some serious cash, isn't it?
Huge incentives, yeah. Financial incentives, tax breaks, funding, all aimed at getting companies to build these semiconductor fabrication plants, these fabs on U.S. soil.
It's a strategic move then, not just money.
Oh, absolutely. It's about reducing that reliance on overseas production, which we saw can be fragile.
Right.
Supply chains and national security, making sure the U.S. has access to the latest chip tech, plus, boosting R&D here, trying to build up that whole ecosystem domestically.
So the upside seems pretty clear. More secure supply chains, national security benefits, maybe driving innovation here. That all sounds good.
It does. Strategically, it makes a lot of sense.
There's always a but, isn't there? What's the other side?
Well, the big one is cost. Cost competitiveness. Building and running these cutting-edge fabs in the U.S., it's just, well, generally more expensive than in established hubs like Taiwan or South Korea.
Why is that? Labor costs, regulations.
All of the above.
Labor,
environmental rules, setting up the whole specialized supplier network. It adds up. So, yeah, the strategic reasons are strong, but the economics. That's a hurdle they need to clear.
Okay, definitely something to watch in the tech space. Now, let's completely switch gears. Coachella and this buy now, pay later thing.
Right. BNPL.
You mentioned maybe, 60% of ticket buyers using it, and you asked if that's maybe a warning sign for the economy, especially with tickets hitting like $500, $600 plus for next year.
Yeah, it's an interesting data point on consumer behavior, especially for discretionary stuff like a big music festival. BNPL is popping up everywhere now.
It makes those big price tags seem more manageable up front, I guess, splitting it into payments.
For sure.
But your point about it maybe signaling an economic downturn, explain that a bit more.
Well, the thinking is, if lots of people need to use installment plans for something that's ultimately, a fun extra, not essential.
Like concert tickets.
Exactly.
Right.
It might suggest their budgets are stretched thin, that they don't have the cash on hand, which, doesn't exactly scream economic confidence.
So more people taking on debt for leisure activities could be a red flag.
It could be. It suggests maybe less disposable income, more reliance on credit, just to maintain a certain lifestyle or have certain experiences. And that makes people more vulnerable if, say, interest rates go up or the job market weakens.
But you also raise the flip side, like, what if it's a 0% APR deal?
Right.
If you pay it off on time, it's basically an interest-free loan. Could that just be smart budgeting for some people, maybe even helps build credit?
That's the appeal, absolutely. 0% interest is tempting. And if you're disciplined, make all the payments, you avoid fees, you avoid interest, it's just spreading the cost.
And some providers do report to credit bureaus.
Some do, yeah. So for someone with maybe a thin credit file, it could be a way to build a positive history. It's definitely changing how people access short-term credit.
Plus, let's be honest, the ticket companies and the BNPL guys are pushing this hard.
Oh, for sure. It's marketing. Makes the big ticket price less scary, maybe drives more sales,
Hmm.
lowers that initial barrier.
But the catch is you have to make those payments.
That's the critical part, especially with 0% deals. Miss one payment, and suddenly you might owe late fees, maybe even retroactive interest on the whole amount.
Ouch.
Yeah, and the ease of using it. There's a risk people just rack up too many of these old payment plans without realizing how much they truly owe overall. Overspending becomes easier.
It really taps into that bigger conversation about consumer debt in the US. You had that comment like, this country runs on debt, so at this point, who cares?
Slight chuckle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does kind of capture a feeling, doesn't it? Borrowing is just normal for many people. Credit cards, car loans, mortgages, now BNPL.
It's almost expected.
It is. But that normalization of debt can kind of mask underlying risks, both for individuals and maybe the wider economy if too many people are over-leveraged. So it makes you think, how do you see BNPL fitting into your own finances? What does its popularity say about society?
Yeah, definitely something to chew on. Okay, pivot again. International trade. Tariffs. You had a memorable take on potential reversals. Trump is like, JK, ha, he no tariffs anymore. OG IRL internet roll.
Chuckles. It certainly paints a picture of potential volatility in trade policy.
Right. Those tariffs from the Trump administration, they shook things up globally. Aimed at trade imbalances, helping U.S. industries, that was the rationale.
They definitely had a major impact, sparked a lot of debate.
But the JK ha-he part suggests, like, a sudden, maybe whimsical reversal. Is that likely? What's the situation now?
Well, look, as of right now, mid-April 2025, most of those tariffs are still in place.
Ah.
There's always talk, negotiations, maybe some specific adjustments here and there,
Right.
but a complete sudden wipeout, that would require a pretty major policy decision, a big shift.
So less JK hee more status quo for now.
Pretty much. But your comment, even jokingly, it highlights how unpredictable trade policy can feel. Decisions made in one capital can have huge ripple effects globally for businesses, for us as consumers. It underlines that uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely. The global economy is definitely not static. Okay, let's bring it local. Detroit, you noticed EV charging stations near the Ford train station.
Yeah, near Michigan Central Station just struck me as interesting.
And that's significant. Why?
Well, it's just a very visible sign of that shift towards electric vehicles, right there in the heart of the traditional auto industry. Seeing public chargers becoming more common, it shows the transition is happening.
And specifically near that station, Michigan Central. Ford's big project.
Exactly. Ford's pouring a ton of money into renovating that station and the whole Corktown area around it. They want it to be this big hub for mobility innovation.
Like future of transportation stuff.
Right. EVs, autonomous vehicles, connectivity, all that. So seeing EV chargers popping up right there, it makes sense. You'll probably see a lot more infrastructure investment in that specific zone as their plans develop.
So it connects Detroit's history with its future in a way.
Perfectly put. Yeah. It links that deep automotive heritage with where the industry is heading now towards more sustainable transport. If you're interested in like urban planning or how cities adapt to tech, it's a cool little example.
Definitely is. Okay, last but not least, maybe the most critical issue we face. Your puppy needs a Shinola jacket.
Apparently. To fit in at the dog park, the peer pressure is real, even for dogs.
It's a great anecdote, though. Shinola, the Detroit brand, known for American-made stuff, now doing high-end pet gear.
Yeah, watches, bikes, leather goods, and now dog jackets.
And this canine fashion need is actually making you think about finding extra income.
Well, yeah. It's funny, but it's also kind of relatable, isn't it? How these desires, even for non-essentials, maybe especially for pets, can actually motivate us economically.
It circles back a bit, doesn't it, to the Coachella tickets, the discretionary spending, why we want the things we want.
Exactly. It's a lighthearted example, but it touches on those same themes of consumer desire, maybe social signaling, even at the dog park, and how that connects to our financial lives.
So quite the journey we took there. From a global semiconductor strategy.
All the way down to dog coats.
Right, through BNPL trends, tariff uncertainties, EV infrastructure growth. It's amazing how you pulled all that together from different observations.
It really shows how connected everything is, doesn't it? Global trends, tech shifts, they filter down and show up in very specific, sometimes unexpected ways in our daily lives or local communities.
The big picture reflected in the small details.
Nicely said. Yeah.
So thinking about all these threads, the way we pay for things changing with BNPL, the uncertainty around global trade, the acceleration of tech like EVs, even these aspirational consumer desires, What do you think? What's the really big economic or social shift we should be watching most closely right now?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
Or maybe the $600 Coachella ticket question. How do all these forces interact and shape what's next?
Well, thanks for sharing all those thoughts and sources with us. It made for a really interesting deep dive.
My pleasure. It's fascinating to think through it all.
Hopefully, it sparks some new perspectives. And hey, if more things catch your eye or you want to explore other topics, definitely send them our way for future discussions.